From the land of conjurers, flying through the internet to your device like a UAP, haunting the unexplained and downright weird. This is the Witching Hours, and we're ready to take off in the flash of an eye. Good evening to one and all, wherever and whenever you're listening to this program. I am Jonathan Frost, and joining me, as always, is medium Jenny Lee, who you can't see right now. How are you doing, medium Jenny Lee?
I am well. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing good. There we go. We got you on there.
I think we are. It's our faces.
I can't click on any other windows. We're gonna get this through. We had a little bit of technical difficulties tonight, but we're gonna get there. We're gonna get to the news, but we're gonna do the news on the backside of the show this evening, so we can get to our guest that we're excited to have with us tonight. One second, here we go. All right, so technical difficulties, but we have a very interesting show for you tonight, something that we're really looking forward to, and I know you guys are going to be excited for this one. So Paul Joel grew up in Brooklyn, New York, went to medical school in Manhattan, and did an internship and residency in internal medicine at Kings County Hospital's Downstate Medical Center. Always a Brooklyn boy, he did a pulmonary fellowship at Mass General Hospital, Harvard, and was in private practice until March of 2019, when he became one of fewer than 500 people in the world to get Hashimoto's encephalitis. He was treated with chemotherapy and steroids for 2 years. But we're here tonight to talk about the book he published in March 2023, which is the novel A Man Like You and Me, a supernatural adventure story. Please welcome to the show, and hugely excited to have him here tonight, Paul Joel. Welcome to the show, Paul. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great.
Excellent.
We're all doing great now.
Yes. It was about 30 minutes of trying to figure out,
this,
it's just computers. Computers.
Is it working now?
I think, let's hope it's working now.
And
yes, it is.
You're coming through loud and clear on my end, and the picture it looks good. And so we'll use it while we're holding up here.
Right.
So, Paul, there's a lot that you want to talk about and a lot going on. We've already talked about it a little bit tonight, but I'm going to let you start with your story where you would like to begin. So tell us a little bit about what you want to talk about tonight.
All right. Well, I want to talk about two things. Number one, how the book is very unusual. I'm no writer, okay? And these are about supernatural religious things that happened to me when I got converted. I never believed in God before this. I was converted in an instant, a little bit like St. Paul on the road to Damascus. And the book is about love. The front of the book has the quote of St. Paul from Corinthians, love is patient, love is kind, it goes on and on. Love always trusts, it always hopes, always perseveres. Mm-hmm. And the purpose of the book is to get the experience that I had, and that's suddenly having faith. Okay, the purpose of the book is to instill faith in the reader. Hopefully, if the reader is an atheist, they'll, like me, suddenly have faith in God. And if they do believe in God, hopefully their faith will be increased. And the book starts basically the day that I was converted. Let's backtrack a little bit. My parents were Jewish during World War II and suffered immensely. I don't want to go through all the atrocities, but everyone in my mother's family was murdered except for her. Everyone in my father's family was murdered except for him. And they came to the United States after the war. And I thank God every day that I was born in the United States. Okay, mm-hmm. I didn't have to go through any of that. And I had two things going for me. Okay, I had this phenomenal memory that I never appreciated until I got sick and lost it. And I had this incredible immune system from my father. My father was in World War II and he came home and his family was murdered and he ran for his life. And he spent several winters in the Russian-Polish winter, sleeping in the snow, no shelter, sleeping in the rain, buying food, stealing food just to survive, whatever it is. And I had his immune system, and I knew it was special. My kids, I have two sons and I have two granddaughters, and they would come home from school and one of them would get sick and give it to the other son, they give it to my wife. All three of them would be hacking away. And it looked like I didn't get sick. And, my kids would say, "Hey, Dad, how come you never get sick?" And I said, "I'm a human being. I get sick like everyone else. The only thing is I get sick for about an hour, and then this immune system kicks in and kills everything."
Wow.
So that I knew about. But what I didn't know, and then when I got recently sick, everything was taken away from me, my immune system, my memory, everything. What I didn't realize, I had this great memory, okay? And I never thought it was anything special. And again, when I was an intern and resident at Kings County Hospital, I had this genius, Dr. Howard Lyons, in charge of pulmonary lung disease. And he did things differently. Normally, the underling reads his note and presents the case. But he took the chart. He said, if you know the patient, you don't need the chart. Mm-hmm. So I had 3 or 4 admissions, and I'd be up all night. And then in the morning, he'd take the charts, and I memorized all that, and I could present everything. The other doctors kind of...
So you were able to read through you were able to read all these charts and just memorize every patient chart you had just by looking at it.
Well, it took a little time. I don't have a photographic memory, but still I could do it. Okay. And then to top it all off, so because of his letter of reference, because I was a very good intern resident, I got to do a pulmonary fellowship at Harvard Mass General. So I'm there, and there's about 8 patients throughout the hospital on the pulmonary service, and I get there thinking I'm supposed to memorize this. So I memorized everything on those 8 charts, okay?
Okay.
It's like an incredible memory, all right? And then I meet the attending, Dr. Hales, and we walk over to the chart rack on the first floor, and I hand him the chart, and he looks at me like I'm crazy, and he says, "Look, I don't know if you know what's going on here, but I'm the attending. You're supposed to present the case to me. You're the underling here." And I said, "Yeah, I know that." And then I told him what Dr. Lyons used to say, and I said, "Look, I know everything on that chart. You can listen to me present, and you can go through the chart, and then you can write your note here. It'll save you time instead of coming back and doing that." So we do that for all 8, patients. Then we get to the ICU, and I had been there a couple hours beforehand, but there's a shift change. There's a different nurse. So I'm watching, standing there presenting the case, and there's a lot to remember because there's ventilator settings every hour and vital signs.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, that's a lot of work to do.
It's a lot to memorize. Okay, so but I could do it then. So anyway, as I'm standing there presenting, and Dr. Hales has the chart in his hand on my right, I see the back of this nurse's head, and it's a different nurse from when I was there a couple of hours ago. There was a shift change, and I see this long blonde hair, and I remember saying to myself, "Okay, the width of her shoulders isn't wide. She's not fat." And then she turns around, and I see her face, and I stop. And I say to myself, "My God, this is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. What's this doing here?" Okay. And I hear Dr. Hales in my right ear. It was 1978, so this is the memory I'm used to. "You want to tell me how this patient got on the ventilator? We're pulmonary. That's what we're here for." And the next thought was, pulmonary? There's a crap about pulmonary. Look at this woman. Anyway, so I didn't believe in God, and she's like the perfect human being. She's like a living, breathing saint. She's beautiful. She's brilliant. She's athletic, and she's got a smile that lights up the room. And so, I asked her out. It took me a couple of weeks to get up the nerve, okay? But I asked her out, and she had an engagement ring on that I never saw. And I would look because I'm no ladies' man. I'm shy, and I would never ask a woman who was engaged or married to go out with me. What's the sense of getting shot down? But I never saw it. And even though I didn't believe in God then, He was out there for me. He was helping me. And then we went out, and we're at a restaurant where we met attending a pulmonary who's a couple of years older than me and thought he was a ladies' man. And the next day he kept saying, "How'd you get her to go out with you?" I said, "Well, she has this, I kept asking her, but she says you didn't go out with her because she's engaged." And that's how I found out about the ring, But anyway, so the book is, she's the Mary Beth in the book, okay? She's the beautiful blonde in the book, okay? And the only thing that's different is that in the book, she's not there until later on. But in the book, it starts off with October 15th, 1982, which is one of the most important days of my life, okay? And we're in Germany, of all places. And again, the whole world is different if you're with Mary Beth. Oh, Germany is beautiful.
Can I stop you for a second? Because
Sure.
I want to know about the engagement ring. Was she really engaged, or was she just pretending she was so she didn't have to deal with people?
No, she was engaged. She was engaged.
She really was. Okay.
To a cardiology fellow who I knew.
Okay.
He was a fellow at Mass General also.
Mm-hmm.
And his father, by the way, his father was very famous. His father was the head of pulmonary at the University of Pennsylvania and came to Mass General to visit his son, but also as a visiting professor. So he was there for a week in the pulmonary department. And, I don't like this business where people are just ripping into people, whatever the heck it is, okay?
Yeah.
And so one of the other pulmonary fellows is presenting the case, and I'm sitting there. I'm kind of like a German Shepherd. I'm loyal to the people in my department. And this visiting professor starts ripping into this other pulmonary fellow, because he didn't ask a certain question, okay, that would rule out a certain thing. So, of course, I had a lot of take no prisoners in those days, okay? Like, I didn't really care for just putting somebody down for no reason, okay? And I said, look, had you listened carefully to the history, you don't have to ask the patient this question because what you're concerned about is ruled out already, okay? Mm-hmm. If you like, we can walk upstairs to the patient. I'll show you where they are. And you can, because he was saying to this fellow, you want me to go up there and ask this question, okay? And I said, sure, let's go. Okay, but the answer is already, given it. You listen carefully. Here's this. Here's the pulmonary function studies. Whatever you're considering has already been ruled out. So that was the father of the person that my wife was going out with. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm sure, there was a whole discussion about what a jerk this Dr. Joel is. Okay, whatever the heck it is. But again. And my best friend, by the way, during childhood, I had a miserable childhood. Okay. There was this white German Shepherd that lived next door that I used to babysit for the two kids there. And I loved that dog. He was brilliant, okay, and so loyal. And get this, we're watching TV, and so he thinks he's a human being. They were watching TV, so he's going to come in and watch TV with us, okay? And he pops himself between the TV and one of the kids. And a normal person might say to the dog, okay, Whitey, you got to move out of the way, okay? Just go over there. But no, I said to Whitey, you're in the line of this guy's vision, okay? He can't see the TV. So the dog gets up and moves to the side. Like, I don't think people in my class would know what line of vision is, okay?
Yeah.
And then every once in a while, I'd walk the dog, and then get this. I'm coming home. It's late at night. It's like 6 o'clock. I'm coming home from school, and it's dark. And typical Brooklyn scene, some older kids, high school kids, are trying to grab my book and my wallet and whatever the heck it is. And suddenly I see this 75 pounds of white fur hurling through the air. This Whitey was taking a walk, okay? So he rips the leash from the master, and he knocks one of these kids over. He's got another one by the throat, basically. And I had to lie to Whitey. I said, they're leaving now, okay? We're just playing. It's okay, But he would have none of it, right? And he was my best friend. And then unfortunately, I moved away, and I lost my best friend. But then to top it all off, when I met my wife, okay, so the first time I'm visiting their house where her parents were, okay, of course they have a German Shepherd too, okay? And her name was Sam.
There are no coincidences, Paul.
There are no coincidences, okay? And, it's just like, but the only thing that's different in the book and in real life is this, okay? There's a famous story, again, of Our Lady of Fatima in 1917 asking that the Pope, in unison with the bishops, consecrate Russia to an Immaculate Heart. And two popes have done it, Pope Paul and Pope John Paul II. They've consecrated Russia, but not with the bishops. And in the book, I'm supposed to get that done, okay? And the only thing that's different about the book is that the character of my wife is beautiful blonde, okay? Is not in the beginning of the book, but of course she's in the beginning of the book because I wouldn't be going on a vacation, going through Germany and whatever it is, and walking to Tears Church without her. So that's different. And the other thing that's different is that I made her look better in the book. Okay, she's there to protect me. Okay, and there's a scene in real life. It's October 13th, 1982. We're on a train in Germany. Okay, and it's crowded. We're standing in the aisle. Every seat is packed. And right in front of her is a crazy guy with a knife about 10, 15 feet in front of her with his back to the wall. And suddenly he charges towards her. And, a normal person would say, okay, I'm going to get out of the way. She sees it. She'll get out of the way. She could have been a professional skier. She's athletic and everything, okay? But that's not what I did. I grabbed her shoulders and threw her over the lap of somebody, and then I held her down so she couldn't stand up. There's no way this guy could reach her with the knife. And unfortunately, I'm still in the aisle. And, by the grace of God, he didn't stab me because, my whole side was exposed and everything else. And then he ran out. And then I let her up, and she never said thank you. This is Saint Mary Beth, okay? I risked my life, and for years I would pray to God, explain this to me, okay? And again, this happened on a very special day. It's October 13th, 1982, and that's the date in 1917 when Mary tells these three children this is what they're supposed to do, go to the Pope, and that she's Mary before she's some lady from heaven, okay? So it's kind of an important date. And then 2 days later, I get converted, okay? And I walk in, I'm with my wife, okay? But not in the book, she's not there yet. And we're going to see Neuschwanstein, this beautiful castle that Ludwig II built in the 1800s. And the bus stops in the middle of nowhere, and there's a coffee shop on one side of the road and a little church on the other side. And everyone gets off the bus, and they all go into the coffee shop except for me, because I didn't feel like eating or drinking. I didn't have to use the men's room. So I walked over to the church. And I didn't know the story of this, but the story was that there's a stick figure of Jesus being scourged that they used to use in the Good Friday procession. And everyone agreed this was ugly, so they threw it in a barn for a couple of decades until somebody realized there were actual tears coming from the eyes of Jesus on this thing. So they built the church, put that on the altar. And when you walk in there, it's this beautifully decorated church. I mean, the walls, the ceilings are gorgeous. And it's a Catholic church. There's Stations of the Cross on the side walls. But your eye is drawn to this ugly thing, and I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at this, and then suddenly I get a thought. I didn't hear anything. It wasn't an auditory hallucination. It was like somebody was talking to me and basically said, I love you, your sins are forgiven. And later on, it was, I saw what you did like 2 days ago, and I love you for it, okay? So, and suddenly I'm converted. Okay, and the creator of the universe is talking to me like I'm nothing. Like, what is, I think he's got better things to do than to talk to me. Okay, but I'm thrilled. I'm like very excited. Okay, and I tell my wife about it, and she's kind of like, okay, all right, he's happy. I don't know what the hell happened, but whatever. and then we're checking out of this very inexpensive hotel, and the idea was we're going to sleep on the train to go to Vienna the next day. And so I said to the clerk, what's one of the nicest places to eat around here? And he said, well, probably the restaurant at the Four Seasons Hotel. So I said, let's go there. And he said, you'll never get in there because you have jeans and sneakers and backpacks, and you need a suit and she needs a gown. Plus, it's a very small restaurant. It's Friday, October 15th, 1982, apparently it was a Friday. Okay. So I said to myself, nonsense, of course we're going to get in there. I mean, if I want to celebrate that the creator of the universe is just communicate with me, of course we're going to get it. He's going to help. So we get there, and there's a doorman dressed to the nines and the top hat, and he looks at us, and I ask him where the restaurant is on the second floor, and he says, look, let me take your backpacks for you. I'll give it to you on the way back. Basically, you don't allow people dressed like you with backpacks in our lobby. And then I go up the stairs, and there's a maitre d' there in a tuxedo. All the waiters are in tuxedos. All the guests have gowns and suits on, whatever. And he asks me our names. I give him my name. And there's one empty table, and he says, here. And my wife said there was a reserve sign with our name on it, but I didn't see that. I don't remember that, okay? And then the piano player was playing this song, A Man Like You and Me, which is where the title of the book comes from. And so I asked the waiter, does he know the lyrics? And he wrote it down. It's by Michelle Jarry. And basically it says, well, it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, we're all slaves to our fate. Like there's a fate, and that's it. And God knows your fate way beforehand. So, and that's the name. That's how the book, came into being, the title anyway. And so we're sitting there, and she's writing this list that I have. I can send you an email. This list in her handwriting, okay? And it has weird things like doesn't make any sense. Saint Bridget of Sweden, Paul, Stephen, Marcus, who's the 34th Pope, and the first Pope, by the way, who wasn't murdered. Okay, the first Pope to die of natural causes. How'd you like to be elected Pope? Okay, here's this great honor. Okay? Everyone gets murdered. Okay,
most likely you're going to get murdered.
Right. You're gonna get, and the reason he didn't get murdered is he was very sick and died for a very short time after.
Oh goodness.
Okay, so anyway, so the next day we sleep on a train. We go to Vienna, and we sign into another inexpensive hotel, and there's a law in Vienna that you can't have a building higher than St. Stephen's Cathedral. So I said, let's look for a restaurant there. There's got to be a restaurant at the tourist place on the plaza there. So I look for another restaurant, happens to be on the second floor, and I go there. And it has like a regular wooden door with a glass, wooden frame with a glass door. And I open it, and there's a dim light in the second floor. And we walk up there, and clearly it's closed. So then I turn around to leave, and we're locked in. And again, I'm a pulmonary fellow from Mass General, grew up in Brooklyn. There's a law in every Western country since 1921. Okay, what happened in 1921? There's this nightclub in Manhattan, the Coconut Grove. Okay. And there's a fire that broke out, and for somehow the people were locked in and burnt alive. So there's a law that if you can open the door and people are in there, you can't lock them in. Okay, and here I am. I just opened the door and I can't get out. And I'm tapping on the glass, and a nice man with dark hair comes in to open the door. He can't open the door that I just opened. Okay, and then I look back at where the restaurant was, at the light where the restaurant's supposed to be, and I see a Christmas tree. For about 5 seconds, that disappears. And I see an Easter candle. And then I see the face of Jesus, and he's not smiling. I'm petrified. And I'm trying to get out, and I can't get out. And then probably what seemed like an eternity, but 2 minutes later.
Let me slow you down real quick here, Paul. Let me slow you down real quick. So,
one last part.
Go ahead.
A blonde comes to the door to open the door. And the next day when I looked at this book of saints, the face of that blonde was St. Bridget that my wife wrote down the day before. Okay.
So you walked into the cathedral. The door was open. You walk in. The door closes behind you. You're locked in, and then
it wasn't a cathedral.
No, not a cathedral. This is the whole way that we're looking for the restaurant.
Oh, for the restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's on the plaza.
The door. Then someone tries to reopen the door that you walked through, and they're not able to.
Right.
And so, where are you seeing the Christmas tree and the image of Christ?
I look back up where the light was. Okay, where I thought where the restaurant was supposedly open, but it was closed. Okay, to see what my wife is doing because she's behind me and everything else. And then I saw those three scenes. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and again, I was instantly converted on it the day before when I went into Tears Church. So that was the good day, and then the other was not so good day. There's always a match to these things, because otherwise you think you're crazy.
I have to ask this question because I'm just curious. So when you saw the image of Christ, was it like the typical, like what most people think of when they see Jesus, or was it like a face that you wouldn't recognize, but you just kind of knew that it was Jesus?
It was a face that everyone would recognize.
Okay.
It was short little beard, short beard. Very short beard, and a face that you would see like with brown hair or something like that.
Okay.
And just the face. That's all I saw. I didn't see the rest of them. And then I was converted.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
And then again, my wife is there, okay, and she never said thank you when I risked my life to save her on the train the day before, okay. And again, I pray all the time, This is St. Mary Beth. This is like the perfect human being. How could she not say thank you when I risked my life to save her, okay? And then, I got the answer. I got sick, okay? So it's March 25th, 2019, real life. I'm driving to work to see patients in the office, and suddenly I don't know how to drive the car or use my cell phone. And I became one of fewer than 500 people in the history of the world to get this god-awful disease, Hashimoto's encephalitis. And immediately, most of my long-term memory and all of my short-term memory was wiped out. And again, this immune system was destroyed because I was treated with chemotherapy for 2 years, and steroids and anti-seizure medicines because I was seizing, and everything that I had was taken away. And
so encephalitis is, correct me if I'm wrong, encephalitis is essentially like a swelling and too much liquid in the brain, right?
It's an inflammation. It's an inflammation of the brain, inflammatory cells in the brain. Okay.
Yeah.
And to top it all off, okay, despite all the treatment, and again, I was treated with chemotherapy for 2 years. I'm left-handed, so the right side of my brain is dominant, and the part of the brain that's responsible for memory is the hippocampus and temporal lobe. So my right hippocampus and right temporal lobe is completely destroyed. So when I came home, I had no long-term memory and very little short-term memory. I was an idiot. So if I took the medicines, I had all these medicines to take, the steroids and the chemotherapy, when I got home, I have to write a list of the medicines, and as soon as I took it, cross it off, because 2 minutes later, I had no idea if I took the medicines or not, I didn't want to overdose. And this went on for 2 years.
Wow.
And then since nothing changed, okay, they stopped the treatment. And then a year later, on April 29th, 2022, miraculously and suddenly my memory came back. So I can tell you the story, okay? And to top it all off, get this. I'm in the hospital March 25th, 2019. I get home, I'm discharged on May 2nd. Okay, so May 2nd is a good day. I'm finally home. Okay. On April 29th, 2022, I get my memory back. Now, my closest brother-in-law, I don't have a brother, but I have this very close brother-in-law, and his wife is my wife's sister. Okay. His birthday is May 2nd. And her birthday is April 29th.
April 20th, yep.
Okay, so again,
you want to
talk about coincidences, you can't make this up. Okay?
Wow.
It's bizarre. And the only thing is that I still have the peripheral neuropathy, okay? And I get so pissed off when I drop things and my feet are numb and I have to walk with a wide base. And a couple of months ago, I fell down and broke my right wrist here, so there's still like a little thing there. But I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't have the cast on. You know, just I'm not doing this anymore. No. And so my wife, you know, she suffered with this. You know, and she has this person didn't have a memory for all this time. And again, before I got my memory back, I was ready to give up. I called a priest that I knew, and I asked him, "Is it okay if I stop eating and drinking? I don't want to go to hell for committing suicide, but what's wrong with letting nature take its course?" And, you know, my wife is suffering and I have no brain. You know, I have a peripheral neuropathy and, you know, I don't want to live like this anymore. And he said, "Go for it. You know, that's all right. God will understand." But fortunately, or unfortunately, one of the people who were taking care of me, one of my providers, who's a psychologist, said, "Hey, if you really think that you're supposed to get the Pope and the bishops to consecrate Russia in his church in Moscow, well, you're going to go to hell because you can't tell God that you're quitting on him and pick somebody else." Okay. And so that's the only reason I'm alive today, because of the book. Okay?
So I know we got more places to go, but just to kind of go over this, because I've heard of this before, but just to kind of be able to explain this to the people in chat and the audience that is listening to this. So you're driving home and then basically so you said that all of your long-term memory was completely wiped out, essentially?
Not all of it, because I can still recognize my wife. I knew who she was.
But being able to recall moments from your childhood and stuff like that wouldn't have been possible?
It was gone.
Wow.
Okay. And again, one of the bad things about getting this memory back that I had, okay, is the things that I would prefer not to remember. Okay.
Yes.
Right there. Yes. Like I have this mustache on, okay? I just grew this a couple of weeks ago. Why? Because when I was 6, I was molested, okay? So I'm sitting on one guy's lap who has his hands in my pants, and then the other guy has a knife to my throat, so I saw his face, okay? And he had thinning dark hair when I was 6, okay? And he said, you know, if I say anything or make any movement, they'll kill me, okay? Well, I didn't, okay? And that was forgotten and repressed, okay? But now that the memory's back, it's better than it was before, so I remember that. So every time I'm looking in the mirror and I'm combing my hair or brushing my teeth, I'm seeing that guy's face. So I grew this mustache because he didn't have a mustache. So now when I look in the mirror, I look at the mustache. And it's not him. Okay.
Wow.
So that's that. But even worse than that is, well, not worse than that, but the same kind of thing. I was 3 years old and I wasn't saying any words. And I didn't have a pediatrician. So I didn't get any of these inoculations you're supposed to get or anything like that. My parents were kind of clueless. And you're supposed to be able to say 2 words with meaning by the age of 1. Usually some form of mama, dad, but know who's who. But when you're 3, you're not saying anything. And so one of the neighbors said, "Hey, maybe he needs to see a pediatrician." So I'm 3. I have this great memory, but I'm kind of like dumb. And so I get seen by a female pediatrician who sends me to a male pediatric neurologist. And I remember the look on my parents' face, and they kept asking, "Is he retarded?" And finally, the verdict came in. Quote, okay, this is 71 years ago, okay? "No, he's not retarded. He's aware of his environment. He's just slow. He's very slow." Basically, I didn't know what environment, I thought it was a body part. I knew it was a good thing I was aware of it. And basically, he said, you know, the kid's dumb as a box of rocks, but he's not retarded. He'll learn to talk. And then to top it all off, I went to yeshiva the first couple of years in grade school, and I was the dumbest kid in class, and I was very frustrated. Okay, and my parents went running up saying, why is this kid getting D's and everything? Because they already told him he was dumb. And so this went on in first grade, second grade, and then we moved to a different part of Brooklyn, and now I have to take a bus for 6 miles and walk another few blocks instead of just walking a few blocks to the school. This was a different yeshiva, Rabbi David Leibowitz. And here we are, new kids, new teachers, everything, same thing, the dumbest kid in every subject, okay? This went on for almost all of third grade until finally, towards the end of the year, Mr. Tandler, who was the person who came in the afternoon to teach me what you'd learn in public school, said, I need to talk to you after class. And I was worried because I knew I wasn't getting an award for being dumb. And he said, look, I don't know what's going on with you, but when I call you in class, you seem to have some idea what's happening, but when you take these tests, you're the worst student I've ever had. Don't you study for the test? And then I told him the story about I was dumb and what happened when I was 3. And when I get home, it's late, and there's homework to do in the Hebrew part. I barely have enough time to eat something and get ready for the next day. Why should I waste my time studying? Okay, I'm dumb. And he said, you're not dumb, and study for the test. So about 10 days later, he announces to the class, there's a test, and in a loud voice for everyone to hear, he says to me, hey, do you understand English? Is English a second language to you? I don't want to hear about your schedule, study for the test. And that kind of really hurt because everyone in that class had parents that were immigrants, and my father really struggled with English, not my mother. My mother's a genius in languages. And so I studied for the test and got an A. Who the hell knew? And my whole life was changed. I got A's and everything. And then I went to public school because they had this thing called SP, Special Progress. You take a test in 6th grade and suddenly you skip 8th grade. And so I'm there in 5th grade, and I have another person with dark hair who's kind of like a pervert, hates boys. She loves the girls but hates all the boys, not just me. And I'd answer a question, get it wrong. She'd say things like, listen, you have to stop thinking with your penis and start using your brains for a change, okay? And I was like, okay? And then finally I got into the smartest 6th grade where I had Miss Hammer. And nobody was hitting me, nobody was embarrassing me, it was normal, and she was blonde. So I think in the back of my head, blonde already, it's wholesome, okay? And so it made sense I'm going to fall in love with somebody who's blonde, okay? And then to top it all off, everyone in her family has light hair, okay? One of her brothers has red hair, but everyone else is blonde, and the parents too. And so when I come there the first time, the dog, their German Shepherd, Sandy, looks at me like, hey, this guy doesn't fit in here, okay? He doesn't belong here, okay? So God forbid I should put my arm around Mary Beth when we're watching TV with the rest of the family. The dog starts growling, he's ready to tear my head off, okay? So you didn't do that one, okay? But, they're very protective and they're very loyal, these German Shepherds. So I picked a good best friend, Whitey, okay? He was great.
So do you think that, so now looking back on all of it, do you feel like just the fact that people were saying that you were dumb as a box of rocks, that like you had just got it in your mind that I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I can't do this, and all it took was that one teacher to be like, hey, you aren't dumb,
right?
You are going to do this.
But the point is, I was getting D's. I was very frustrated. Okay, I was trying. Okay, I really didn't understand. I was obviously very behind in language skills. Okay, whether it's Hebrew or English. If you're not saying anything at age 3, there's something wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
And again, I'm kind of like a walking, talking miracle because I still don't have a right hippocampus or right temporal lobe, and there's no left-handed person on this planet who has any memory. Okay, let alone this great memory that I have. Without that, okay. Again, I'm 1.5 now. Okay, I'm sitting in the high chair. I'm like 17 months old. I can't talk, obviously. And I've got the plastic plate and fork and food there, and I'm making noise to try to indicate to my mother that I'm done. So I can't talk, so I'm making noise like, that kind of thing. And she's ignoring me. She's in another room not hearing this. So I decided to take matters in my own hand and throw everything on the floor. The dishes, the little plastic fork and dish and cup or whatever the heck it is. And that doesn't get any, response. So then I try to stand up and get out of the harness and get out of the high chair. And unfortunately, I fell and slid open my chin. I want to go into the ER to get my chin stitched up. There's a little scar there, okay? So this is a great memory, okay?
Yeah, you remember stuff from when you were 1.
Yeah. So That I never really appreciated till again I got this Hashimoto's encephalitis and everything was wiped.
So, do they ever figure out why you got encephalitis?
Again, it's such a rare disease. The only good
Yeah.
part of the disease is there's no history of a family history of it. So there's nothing that says, but I still, when trying to figure out what this was, and I came home and I finally knew what it was. I'm using separate forks and silverware and plates and cups from my wife, because who the heck knows what this was? But maybe have leprosy. That's kind of like the way I felt.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
And still, I do that. Okay, it's kind of like ingrained in. That's kind of the way it is.
So what is so real quick? Let me reset for everyone who's come in, and for those who are joining us live that missed the beginning here. We have Paul Joel on this evening. He is the author of A Man Like You and Me: A Supernatural Adventure Story, and we have in the chat we have that pinned to the top the site on Amazon where you can go to purchase the book. And if you are listening to the podcast later, you can purchase the book at Amazon.com. Go there. A Man Like You and Me, a supernatural adventure story, and you can pick this up and read it for yourself. We do have about 15 minutes or so left, so I want to pick up there. The question I have is, so I know that Hashimoto's, this is something that's very rare. You said you were one of 500 people known.
One of fewer than 500 people in world history. I might be the only one on the planet right now with this.
Wow. So do doctors know if it's typical to ever even get your memory back, or is that also some kind of miracle that you've experienced?
Well, number one, if you lose these parts of the brain, again, if I'm left-handed and I have no right hippocampus and right temporal lobe, I have no memory. Okay, so that's still on my MRIs. I get an MRI every year, and the memory came back in April 29, 2022. I got an MRI after that in 2022. I have one in 2023. That's unchanged. Okay, so there's no reason why I should have a memory.
So the fact that we could even have this conversation, you can remember enough to be able to keep a conversation going, is in itself a miracle.
It's a miracle. Again, my wife is a walking, talking saint, okay? She's annoying, okay? It's annoying to be married to a saint. Every day gets pointed out how much you're lacking, okay? I see how she navigates problems in life, and it's like a slap in the face every day. Hey, why can't I do that, okay? But I'm a walking, talking miracle right now, okay? There is nobody who's left-handed who's missing that part of their brain who has any memory, let alone this great memory that I have. Okay.
So the main thing that we have not really, it's been touched upon here and there, but we haven't talked about it, is you feel like your book is about this, but it's also part of your life that you feel like you would need to do something specific with Russia and the Pope. Will you explain that to us?
Right. Again, in 1917, Mary showed up starting May 13th, April 13th, May 13th, June 13th, July 13th, and then get this, okay? In Portugal at the time, there was a socialist government, anti-religious, and there were all these crowds that were appearing because even though they couldn't see Mary except for these three children, there was changes in the weather. Like suddenly you get cooling and whatever. And it's hot in Portugal during the summertime. And so the government kidnapped the children and threw them in jail with hardened criminals, so they couldn't show up for the August 13th meeting. But Mary showed up. She's not God. She doesn't know the future, okay? And looked around, and they had the same changes in climate, okay? And then she eventually showed up and met them August 19th at a different location, a different time, not at 12 o'clock. And then the next time, September was the same. And then October 13th was the day that she finally told these children, I want you to go to the Pope and convince him to consecrate Russia to my Immaculate Heart with the bishops, in unison with the bishops. Okay. And in the book, my character is supposed to do that. Okay. And in real life, I believe that's my task. Okay. The book isn't so important. What's important is getting this done by the Pope. and
So
teachers. Okay.
when did this come about for you personally? When did you feel like it was something that you're supposed to do?
Oh, when I wrote the book in 1988.
Okay.
And again, in 1988, there's this list of things, again with St. Bridget and all this other stuff. And again, when I'm feeling good and I'm getting miracles that I'm improving, okay. In the book, by the way, the first person who's cured, okay, is the teacher Frank Tanner, Mr. Tanler, the person who said you're not dumb, okay. So I use his name, and that normally there's a whole inquest about miracles, okay, because people say there's miracles. There's a whole society that goes into this, okay. And to see if it's real or not, and so usually it has to be instantaneous. But in the book, there's a character who has a mass on their neck. And obviously, it's cancer. It's rock hard, and eventually it goes away slowly, and then they biopsy and it's gone. Whatever. Okay. And in real life, I'm getting cured gradually. Okay. Certainly, I have no brain. I have no memory. I'm a moron. On March 25th, 2019, and suddenly on April 29th, I had my memory back. But I still have the peripheral neuropathy. And again, I fell down and broke my wrist a couple of months ago. And my feet are numb. My balance is off. I don't drive a car, obviously. My feet are numb. My wife has to do all the driving. But then I'm taking a shower. And normally taking a shower is like risking your life. And normally I'm, figuring out what am I holding on to while I wash this part of my body, whatever it is. I'm standing there, suddenly I'm not holding on to anything. And my balance is better. Okay, and that's, the peripheral neuropathies don't go away after you have them for 3 years, okay?
What exactly is peripheral neuropathy?
Peripheral neuropathy is it's a neurologic disorder of your hands and feet, okay? Your lower and upper extremities, okay? And in my case, it's both of my feet are numb, and I have to sit on pillows here because if I don't sit on pillows, they get more numb because I'm losing a lot of musculature in my lower extremities, and there's weakness, okay, and the balance is off. So the whole nervous system going back and forth, getting the feedback mechanism of your feet are off, and the same thing with my fingers. And again, one of the craziest things, my wife keeps calling me crazy all the time because this is a crazy situation, whatever it is, And one of the craziest thing I ever did was I played in this two-hand touch league on cement as a high school student. And I knew I could catch the ball, somehow I knew how to do that. And again, if you ask anyone or look up how to catch a football, they'll tell you the same thing. You catch it in your hands and then you tuck it in, okay? But I noticed that when a quarterback hands the ball to the running back looks straight ahead and holds his hands parallel like this. The quarterback tucks it in. It's already tucked in. And it's worse if there's a fumble because then it's a live ball. If it's a incomplete pass, the down's over, that's it. You still retain possession of the ball. So it's much worse if that exchange is off. So I decided, hey, I'm going to catch the ball with my hands like parallel, like this all the time against my body if I can. Because obviously it's way up high. I have to catch it in my hands and whatever that is. So I tried out for not the New York Jets, but their farm team. Okay, This is 1970, the summer of 1970. They just won the Super Bowl. Wow. They were great. Okay, they had Namath and they had two fantastic wide receivers, Maynard, who's the fast guy, and Sauer, who's the possession guy. And both of them were great. And Sauer wasn't going anywhere because his father was a coach of the Jets at that time also. So I wasn't going to replace them, but I thought, okay, maybe if I make the Bridgeport Jets and if some other receiver gets hurt, I can get called up because you have an advantage there because the playbook is the same. The playbook is the same for the Jets and for the Bridgeport Jets. So I'm there and I'm doing really well. And the coach is trying to figure out what makes me tick and trying to coach other players and ask me, how come you never get intimidated? You catch a short pass in the flat and you know you're going to get hit by this linebacker at full speed who's like, 240 pounds. And I try to explain to him, it's so important for me to catch the ball, like my life depends on it. I'm concentrating on the ball, and I had this great concentration where nothing else in the world existed. So he can't intimidate me because he doesn't exist until, after I catch the ball, then I'll get popped. But at the time the ball's in the air, no one in the world exists. Okay, just me and the ball. Okay, and so the coach said, "I don't know if I can coach, if I could teach that." I said, "Well, that's not my problem. Okay, that's your problem." Okay, but anyway, I was doing really well until I hurt my knee, and it wasn't dislocating; it was subluxating. It was like a minor dislocation. So I run and cut, and I'd be on the floor untouched. So I got cut, and he said, "Look, take care of that knee because you would have made this team. Get your knee fixed." Okay, so I went to medical school the first year, and then I got this knee surgery the summer between my first and second year of medical school. And I woke up and I complained that the cast was too tight. And the orthopedist said, kind of poo-pooed it, ignored it, and said, "Hey, it's got to be snug." And the next thing and I'm on drugs, and the next thing I remember is in the middle of the night, a resident sawing open my cast, and my foot's paralyzed. And my foot leg was numb from way down. Okay.
Wow.
And so,
man,
it was awful. Okay, I was on crutches till the spring of the next year. Okay, and one of the things about it is, it was actually a good thing because it made me so much better a physician. I listen. Okay, you complain about something that may be nonsense. I'm going to listen to everything you say and not ignore anything. Okay, so it was a catastrophe in a way, but it made me a much better physician. And I've never been sued. I've never had a malpractice case. I've never had a problem with any patient, okay, like that, because I listen. I care.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, in retrospect, it was a good thing, okay, in a way. The thing that was bad is that was the end of football, and it was also the end of orthopedic surgery. Like, I always thought, okay, I'll be an orthopedic surgeon. I'm coordinated. Maybe I can be an orthopedic surgeon for one of these football teams, okay? But you have to stand in the operating room to be a surgeon, and I could hardly stand, so that was out. That's why I went into internal medicine. And that's how I went into pulmonary and met my wife. So
it all worked out.
Lots of,
okay.
and like we said, earlier, like you guys were talking about, there's no coincidences.
No, I don't believe in coincidence.
It really does. It seems like if nothing else, your story really is something for people to take to heart in terms of, when your back's against the wall, when everything's going against you, there's never a reason to quit. I mean, things can always, miracles happen. Miracles can happen.
Because, again, the reading of the Annunciation, March 25th, when I got sick, okay, is the angel Gabriel's coming to Mary and saying, "You're going to be the mother of Jesus." And she says, "How could this be? I don't have anything to do with man." And he said, "Well, the Holy Spirit will come, overtake you, and everything is possible with God." That's the take-home message. Everything is possible with God. Okay, you have a brain, it could come back. You're incurable, some kind of awful disease, you can be helped. And the most important thing is, we're here for a relatively short time. Eternity is what's important. Okay, so if you can, again, if I did the same thing right now and risked my life to save my wife, it would be a completely different interpretation, because someone could say, well, he's had a lousy life, he's got a peripheral neuropathy, his brain is, problems, whatever it is, and maybe he thought this was his ticket to heaven. But at the time that I risked my life to save my wife, I didn't believe in heaven or hell. This is it. This is the only world that there was. What you see and touch and feel and perceive with your senses, that's it. And I was ready to give that up.
Wow. Well, absolutely amazing story. Absolutely amazing.
I feel like we talked about it, but we haven't, there's so many things we could just go dive into and talk about all the little nuances of everything. Cause I just was going back to thinking about, you were at the point where you wanted to stop eating.
I was ready to give up, okay? Because, and again, one of the things that I want the reader to get is don't give up. And again, if not for this psychologist reading the book, taking the time to read the book, and saying, hey, if you really think this is what you're supposed to do.
Oh. Okay, so the call ended. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the call going again so we can say our goodbyes to Paul. I was trying to catch it before it ended. We're having to use a different program tonight because we were having some issues.
Okay.
We got Paul back. There we are, Paul. You're back going live here. We ran out of time on the meeting.
We're back, right?
Yes, this Google Meet kicked us out.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and take just a couple minutes to finish up here. We were talking about the miracle and the miracles and kind of the message that you wanted to kind of push, talk about, that you discussed in your book, and what you wanted to talk about tonight.
Yeah, again, the purpose of the book is to try to instill faith in the reader. And again, if the person's an atheist like I was, hopefully it's an opportunity for them to learn that God exists and to have a different kind of life. And for those who do believe, hopefully it'll increase their faith. That's the purpose of this book, okay? Mm-hmm. And again, it's basically a true story. And I'm no writer, okay? I basically was kind of told to write this book. Then my personal story of the miracles of my life and losing my memory and coming back, that's just like a punctuation mark to this, The purpose of the book is to instill faith. That's the purpose of this. And again, that's the purpose of the book. But my task in life is to kind of get this consecration done. When I wrote the book in 1988, in the book it says supposed to be in a church in Moscow, but I didn't know the name of it. Okay, and then just this year I was told which church in Moscow it is, the Church of the whatever. Okay, mm-hmm. That's my task in life. Okay, and again, I don't want people having nightmares that if this doesn't happen, we're all going to die. But that's what I believe. Okay, so and again, I'm waiting for the time when I'm supposed to try to get this done, and hopefully a bishop or a cardinal reads this book and it kind of connects with them. And get this, okay? There's only 6 cardinals in the United States. Really? One of them is Cardinal Timothy Dolan, the Archbishop Cardinal of New York, which has the most Catholics in the diocese. Okay, mm-hmm. So in my typical, this is my usual personality is take no prisoners. Okay, so I call his secretary and he has a radio show. I want to get on the show, tell him about the book. Okay,
yeah,
at least maybe give the book to the Pope or whatever the heck it is. So I'm on the phone. I'm going back and forth with emails. This is a couple of months ago, and his show stops during the summer. So he says, call me back when the summer's over. So I get on the phone with his secretary again just last week, and say, hey, I'm ready. Okay, the summer's over. It's officially fall now. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Just ended. Okay. And let's go. Okay. So I think I'm going to get on the show.
Awesome.
Excellent.
It'll be a way to at least talk to one of the 6 cardinals in the United States. Hey, this is what has to be done. Okay, are you in? Can you help?
Well,
and again, to me, the book is important. Okay, I would like my wife to read it one day. I'd like my 2 sons to read it one day. They've never read it. Okay, they hate it. Okay, because they think I've wasted time and money that we don't have and everything else. And my kids don't believe in God, so they need a miracle so that they can believe. Okay, so I'm ready for all this, but I'm waiting for like the go time. Okay, and I think the go time is, as in the book, the person wins the lottery. Okay, mm-hmm. Massachusetts, and he wins $91,414.34, which is an impossibility for one person to win that. Okay, and it's quoted. Okay, 91 stands for the evil one, because the evil one took Jesus to the top of the temple and then quoted Psalm 91 and said, "Jump, the angels will stop you from hurting your feet." Okay, so that's that. 414 is from April 14th when I got this message, as in the book, next week. And 34 is Mary, because I'm saying the rosary and there's 34 church bells go off. And I asked the priest, what's the significance of that? And he says, well, it's 40. And I said, well, I just counted 34. Maybe the guy who's ringing the bell made a mistake. And he said, nobody's ringing the bell. It's on a tape. And subsequently, I've counted 40 all the time. But I know it was 34 then, because it started off like the Angelus, 3 sets of 3, and then the regular one. So I know how to count, okay?
Yeah.
So she's supposed to, the Blessed Virgin Mary is supposed to intercede and and do this. And I thought for sure it was going to be last week, because last week was September 22nd, and in the book and in real life, I get this dream. Okay, and I don't really remember dreams, so it's a very rare thing. Okay, and the dream was 2, and then 22.9, and then I kind of like understood that 2 meant Acts 2, okay, which is when the apostles received the Holy Spirit. It's Pentecost, and 22.2 is a section where St. Paul, my namesake, gets converted. Okay, he sees the light. Nobody can hear the voice except for him, and then he's blinded and he loses his sight. And then he's taken to this church, and he gets converted. Whatever. Okay, and so I thought for sure it would be 9/22, September 22nd, and then also I say the Rosary every day. It has Padre Pio on it, and on September 23rd is his feast day, and to top it all off. To top it all off, if you went to church that day and listened to Mass, there would be the parable of the sower. A man puts seed on the ground, and someplace it's on rocky soil, and a good place, whatever it is, and it's about perseverance. And that's the reading, okay? And in my book, okay, there's a listing in the back of the book that has all of the readings in chronological order.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the things about the book is that if you read this, you get to read a large section. Here's another page of readings, okay? And it's in chronological order, okay, the listing of these. And so the reading before the parable of the sower, and that's listed there as one of the readings, okay, is page 56. And the reading after it is page 61. But guess what? The parable of the sower is not in that book. It's listed there, but it's not in that book.
Wow.
Not in those pages or any other page. And I looked. I hunted that, after September 23rd, I'm looking for that. Okay. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm living my life as, okay, this is what happens. This is the readings. They kind of correlate. They make sense. He's still interested in me for whatever reason. Okay. And I'm this big sinner. Okay. I know who I am. I'm not saint. Okay. I'm not my wife. Okay.
Yeah.
and the other thing is, my wife is phenomenal at convincing people to do things, okay? Like she would be perfect to go to the Pope and the bishops and convince them to do that, okay? I mean, I've been the object of that, her convincing me my entire life, 40 years, okay? I've been, the subject of that, okay? So I know that, and, it just bothers me that, again, she was the first person picked for this, unlike the pinch hitter, okay? She was the one who wrote the list. She was the one who wrote St. Bridget. She was the one that said, as we're running to the fountain there in Munich, okay, the world's fountain, J means James, our first son. And I was the one that said, what's wrong with Joseph or John? And she said, it's James, like it's obvious. And then I met the guy at the fountain, and we're looking for something with James or John or Joseph written on it, but there's nothing written on it. And there's this man standing there, and he looks at me and he says, my name's James. I was waiting for you for a long time. So by the time he got here, then he left. And that's how our first son is James.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm kind of living this like and one of my the therapists who saved my life says, you're really greedy, like you keep praying for everything. And I said, yeah, I can do everything. I'm seeing these miracles all the time. Why can't I play football again? Why can't I be 50 years younger? Okay. I mean, Padre Pio had the stigmata for 50 years. So why can't I be cured and be 24 again and try out for, one of these, football teams again and play? Okay.
I don't think anything's impossible, Paul.
Right. Okay.
Well, I will say, after what we've heard tonight, there's been a lot of miracles, so there's no reason that anything should be off the table. Paul, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Once again, the book is A Man Like You and Me, a supernatural adventure story. You can go right to Amazon.com. I know everyone's got that
the link is
easy to go. The link's right there in chat.
Right there.
I'll have the link.
That way.
Yeah, I'll have the link in the podcast and on the YouTube video. So if you're listening to this, go check out the book and let us know what you think once you've read it. Thank you again, Paul, for joining us. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me.
All
It's
right,
very
we really
nice. I
appreciate
love
it.
hearing all of your not coincidences and miracle stuff is really fascinating.
Thank you again.
All right.
Yeah.
Good night, Paul. Thank you so much. And keep us updated if send me an email if you hear something
I will.
from the
I will.
diocese or something. Let me know, okay?
Yeah.
I
Or you
will.
win the lottery.
I'll keep it in the loop. Hey,
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Have a wonderful evening.
you too. Stay safe.
You too. All right. Okay. Let me get the medium Jenny Lee reset up here. And,
It's a lovely view of the window back there. Layers of face.
Are you ready for your close up?
Yeah, no, not really.
You
Oh,
get
no,
to
it's
see
like just me.
all the magic is whisked away.
Oh, there we go. He's got me back in the right place.
We're gonna get there.
So
Okay.
I'm in a back asswards show today. Now it's time for the paranormal news.
Yeah. We're gonna do the news at the end. I'm gonna skip the screen, the transition, because the transitions, they're all messed up tonight because we're not using our normal scheduled program. But the show got done, and that's the important thing. We got it. We did it.
Somehow.
Yeah. It's about to get messed up again real quick, but let me bring the weird news over. There we go. Okay. So, lots of stuff going on in the news, Jenny. We've been talking about some of it that was going on. But I kept it a little bit. I'll be honest with you. It's getting to the point. I've talked about possibly doing a news every once in a while, maybe doing a Witching Hours news during my Giant of the Frost stream on Monday to kind of see how that works out. Because there has just been a flood of news, so much that you typically, what I do is as I look through my news feeds, I kind of save things, read them, and save ones that I think that are interesting for the weird news. And it's gotten to the point where all of the news articles I save, I'll have 15 of them, and I'm just going through and picking the last 3. So it's getting to a point where there's a lot of stuff that I've kind of wanted to talk about that we haven't been able to. So I don't know. Well, maybe that'll be something we do coming up. But the first story for tonight is James Webb spots a building block of life on Jupiter's moon Europa. A building block of life may exist inside the global ocean on Europa, one of Jupiter's icy moons. 2 independent teams of astronomers used the James Webb Space Telescope to observe the frozen surface of Europa, and each analysis of the Space Observatory's detections revealed an abundance of carbon dioxide within a specific region of the frigid terrain. Europa is one of several ocean worlds in our solar system besides Earth where scientists believe life could exist beneath a thick ice shell.
Isn't it so interesting that we made this crazy, just super expensive, high-tech telescope thing to send out to go look into the complete, just far reaches of the universe. And really, we haven't even barely begun to figure out what the hell's in our own solar system. Because now it's oh, guess what?
Yeah.
This moon that's not that far away might have some life on it.
Well, Europa has been, for a long time, Europa's scientists have thought that if there was life like ours in the solar system, well, not life like humans, but life like we know it, any kind of biological carbon-based bacteria or something like that, that Europa would be a good place to look for it. And now they're seeing high levels of carbon dioxide in a certain region of the planet. It says that environments suitable for life need more than water. They also require a supply of organic molecules and an energy source. And now they're looking at Europa's ocean because it contains carbon and other chemicals necessary for life. So they're going to be looking at that closer, and then connected to it in another story. The James Webb Telescope had a weak detection of the microbial life biomarker dimethyl sulfide. There is a 1 in 66 chance that it was instrument noise, but there will be a follow-up analysis with the MIRI, a mid-infrared instrument on the James Webb. This should scan the exoplanet K2-18b at the wavelengths for easier detection of dimethyl sulfide. This will let us know for certain if the signature for microbial life was detected or not. There would still be the chance that there is an unknown chemical and geological process on a different world that are making that chemical that microbes make on Earth. So the James Webb Telescope has detected a chemical that is released from microbial life on Earth in the atmosphere of a planet a long ways away. So not only are we possibly finding life in our solar system, but James Webb is also possibly finding life on distant planets.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with Luce. It's like all of us weird woo-woo people know that there's just life everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the human earthling scientist people that are like, there's no life anywhere.
Yeah. But you don't think it would be big news to be able to be.
Oh, it would be fabulous.
Yeah.
It would be wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just like some microbes or whatever. Like
that's all it takes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, people are obsessed with finding, like some humanoid alien race with laser guns. But all it takes is finding some
Squid
kind of but all it takes is finding some kind of bacteria. I mean, any life, if any other life is found anywhere else on any planet outside of Earth in the solar system, then you start getting into the Drake equation. Which is like, if life only exists on Earth and nowhere else, then that's one thing. But you can't have life on Earth and life on this other planet somewhere else, and then not have just life everywhere. You know what I mean? Like if we were to find some kind of bacteria on Europa, or some kind of microbial life on some planet, thousands of light years away, hundreds of light years away, then at that point, once you prove that, then it's like, it's just at that point, I think that proves that life is abundant pretty much anywhere in the galaxy. So I think that's important. There is story, the one we talked about last night. Extraordinary structure has no real parallel in the archaeological record, scientists say. So archaeologists have unearthed the oldest known wooden structure, and it's almost 500,000 years old. The simple structure, found along a riverbank in Zambia, is made up of 2 interlocking logs with a notch deliberately crafted into the upper piece to allow them to fit together at right angles, according to a new study of cut marks made by stone tools. Jeff Duller, a professor of geography and earth sciences, is at the University of Aberystwyth in the United Kingdom, was part of the team that made the discovery in 2019. We're going to need Gigi to help me.
How do you pronounce that?
He said the structure, excavated upstream of Colombo Falls near Zambia's border with Tanzania, probably would have been part of a wooden platform used as a walkway to keep food or firewood dry, or perhaps at a base on which to build a dwelling. A digging stick and other wooden tools were found at the same site. Wood artifacts are rarely preserved in the archaeological record, particularly at such an ancient site, because organic material easily rots and disintegrates, of course. But at Colombo, Duller said high water levels and fine sediment encasing the structure help preserve the wood.
I was wondering about that. So, like, basically, there's so much stuff packed on top of it.
It preserved it.
And the water was, like, not really touching it because there's just, like, soil or whatever on top. That makes sense.
Yeah. The discovery challenges the prevailing view that Stone Age humans led a nomadic lifestyle. Colombo Falls would have provided a reliable source of water in the surrounding forest, ample food, perhaps allowing for a more settled existence. Now, this is where the story, I think they kind of bury this at the end of the story, and I think this is the kind of the highlight to get to coming up here, is that the The earliest known wood artifact is 780,000 years old. A fragment of polished plank found at the site
Let's say that again,
in Israel. The earliest known
780,000.
80,000. 750,000 years old. They found tools. There's the oldest wooden tools for foraging and hunting were recorded in Europe, date back to 400,000 years. And it's thought that Neanderthals made structures from bones or stalactites around 175,000 years, which when I read that, I was like...
So we're just talking about thousands of years.
Yeah. So but can you imagine that they think Neanderthals made structures out of bones?
Oh, yeah, I didn't really listen to that part.
Absolutely terrifying.
But if they're living in the Ice Age time where they have huge animals that have huge bones.
It doesn't say what kind of bones. What if it was the bones of their enemies?
Then that would be, pretty crazy. But, if it was like a mammoth bone or something, like those things are massive. They're huge.
That would have been before the Ice Age, though. I don't know if there would have been those kind of animals then. I don't know. I would have to go back and look.
Yeah. True barbarian. So this wooden structure is not thousands of years old.
It's hundreds of thousands of years old.
It's 500,000, right?
Yeah, so the wood pieces, okay, so I'm getting into that now. The wood pieces were too old to be directly dated using radiocarbon techniques. Instead, the team used a technique called luminescence dating, which involved measuring their natural radioactivities and minerals in the fine sediment that encased it. And they were able to basically look at the last sunlight that was exposed to it. The dating method put the structure at 476,000 years old and determined that the 4 wooden tools, a wedge, digging stick, and cut log, go back at least 324,000 years. Researchers aren't certain which species of ancient human made the structure and wooden tools, but it is highly unlikely to have been ours. The earliest known Homo sapien fossils date back to about 300,000 years ago and were found in what's now Israel. So
150,000 years before what they think is the earliest Homo sapiens.
175,000, yeah.
There's somebody out there in Zambia building stuff out of wood.
So either Homo sapiens sapien goes back further than they think, which I think is definitely plausible because the dates just keep going back, or there were other kinds of humans like Neanderthals or Homo erectus or whatever that was making buildings, like especially if they just think that this could possibly be a dock. Because like if you can build a dock, then you can build lots of other things. Like if you're building on water, then you can build lots of other things for a settlement, which completely, in my mind, reshapes everything we would think about history about other humans. Like we could have humans with
Here's a
talents.
question though, as I wasn't thinking about this before, is like that specific place, like was there water there 500,000 years ago, or was it was like maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't built over water. Maybe it was built on the ground or whatever.
Definitely not. But and it could be some kind of structure. All they know is a structure.
And here we can go, since this is the, woo-woo world and the witching hours, what if it's not even humanoid?
Well, there'd be no way to know. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
What if there's some other kind of...
There's no way to know who built it.
What if there's some other kind of intelligent life form that was hanging out and building stuff?
I mean, we wouldn't know. I mean, at this point, it's just this structure, and they only know it's a structure because it's been notched and the tools around it were found. It was created by someone or something. And, I'm not familiar with that dating either, like the luminescence dating. So
yeah,
there might be people there's people who question that, but this story was on a lot of different news sites. The one I specifically got, this one was from CNN. So it's not like it's coming from weirdandwonderfulthings.com or whatever. So, lots of interesting things going on.
Yeah,
and
I liked that one.
That was the news.
Yay. Good news. Good news this week. Finding older and older and older and older stuff that don't make no damn sense, that isn't fitting in everybody's thoughts and ideas about what stuff is and how it's supposed to be and blah blah blah. Like let's just keep shattering people's beliefs about what history is. Like I like it. Keep it coming. And then, like we're this freaking close to finding life, what we know as life as on another planet. We're so freaking close.
Yeah. So anyway, lots of stuff going on. Let's see, the rest of the week we got tomorrow, Friday. So we got your show. You're going to be on tomorrow?
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. So I'll be around, kicking around tomorrow, and we'll see you live then. Let me check really quick. I can bring up the calendar. Next week we are going to have next week's show is going to be the first show of October. Can you believe it?
Crazy.
We're going to have Songor Daniel.
Does that mean that Priestess of Wonderland is going to be back to tell us about October's monthly moon stuff?
Yeah, we'll have to talk to Priestess and see if we can get her on next week.
Yes.
Yeah. Send her a Discord message.
Priestess of Wonderland, if you're still here. She was here earlier.
Yeah, so we have Songor Daniel on next week, and Jen Romanowski is going to be on the week after that. And then on the 19th, we have Irene Panagopoulos is going to be coming on.
My friend.
So, going to be a busy month, and it'll also be the month that we celebrate the 2-year anniversary of the Witching Hours. So,
wow.
Off we go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's all we got for tonight. It was a wonderful and interesting night, that's for sure. But we're there, and man, what an interesting. Definitely interesting.
My brain is still like clicking through all of the, synchronicities and, just unusual things that happened, and then like. I really wanted to bring this up as, we're running out of time because of the Google Meet. But there was something that you and I were talking about last night that was the same thing for him. He was talking about how the fact that he could never play football again, and what happened during that situation when the doctor didn't listen to him. He ends up having a paralyzed leg is the reason why he became a good doctor. Like that's when he learned what not to do. Mm-hmm. And like Frosty and I were just talking about this yesterday because we were talking about as a teacher, I've had teachers in my life that taught me what not to do. And even though I hated being in that teacher's class, and I wish that at the time, I wished I would have never been in it. If I wouldn't have been in that woman's class, I wouldn't have learned what not to do to a child. And it's like his story was this like a parallel to that. Here's this doctor that didn't listen to him, even though he knew what was going on with his own body. And then that teaches him to be a doctor later on in life that listens to their patients. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, definitely some good lessons to talk about there. Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's go raid somebody. We'll do something different tonight. Let's go ahead and raid. I'm just looking through the podcast channel, and there's one on here called Truth Seeker Show. I have no clue what it is, but it looks like it's a podcast that deals with talking about something conspiratorial. We don't know what we're getting into.
It could be anything.
But that makes people probably think the same thing before they click on ours. So don't know what we're headed out to, but they got a podcast going, and we're on the podcast channel a lot with this show now, and we haven't made very many friends over here. So let's go see if we can
make some friends.
Yeah, see if we can make some friends. So we'll see what we got going here. I'm gonna like that out, and then we're gonna
We'll see you guys, most of you, tomorrow.
Yeah. Everyone have a good. Thanks so much for coming in tonight and sticking with us through the. We had lots of technical difficulties, but we made it. Truth Seeker show. All right, guys. Thank you for coming in. It was good seeing everybody. I'm sure we're going to be able to talk tomorrow. I'm sure Jenny's going to talk about her and our trip out to see Cindy Kaza last night. So we'll get into that. And it's glad to be back and be back into our schedule. Thanks so much for coming in, and we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.